I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Good morning, everyone. It is May 18th, 2018. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing? I hope you are well. We have a problem. In my opinion, a big one. People of the world, for generation after generation, have fallen prey to socio and psychopaths. What is the difference? The difference between the two is a sociopath will step on and pretty much do anything to achieve a goal, whether it be being a president or a CEO of a large corporation, a senator. And a psychopath, well, they don't need a goal. They cause harm for the sake of causing harm because they like to. Our government, the police departments, the whole thing, it's filled with people who seek out power over others. This is one of the symptoms of psychopathy and sociopathy. And these people really aren't people. They're, well, a lot of people believe them to be, demons and just monsters. And the thing about this is, they knowingly vote for people they know deep down inside are monsters. They re-elect them, they support them, they aid in their campaigns. Take John McCain, for example. And it's hard to distinguish between the two without, a whole bunch of data regarding that person. But we can see through his actions during Vietnam that he threw his fellow soldiers under the bus after being captured time and time again. He lied about there being soldiers left there. And of course, he is one of the more war-hawkish senators, or is he a senator? Yeah, I think he is. Or he's either a senator or a congressman. I haven't been sleeping well. I'm in a patch of fog, and the reason people don't recognize outright, they know at the subconscious level, and the reason they don't recognize it outright, consciously recognize it, is because they have unhealthy minds. Brains. They are either thinking totally with the right hemisphere or they're thinking with the left hemisphere. One controls emotions, one controls logic. But if you crosswire these two portions of your brain, you have an ability that most other people don't. You are able to see truths that many, many millions, if not billions of people do not see. And how this is achieved is, well, number one, if you sit with your legs crossed And it's a continuous habit, something you do all the time, like I am now. My ankles are crossed. Crossing your arms. If you put your right hand to the left, it is now in that hemisphere. And the more exercises you do in this regard, exercising both hemispheres of the brain, the more clarity you end up achieving. So, and this is this is something that will give you another ability, and that is hyperlearning. You'll be able to absorb shitloads of data very quickly if you manage to wire your brain to where your left and right hemispheres are cooperating. Now, the psychopaths. And the reason I do believe one of the main reasons why I see things the way I do, and many of my commenters don't see it that way, or they'll agree with me, but won't go as far as to say the state needs to be wiped out, gone, is because they don't see the psychopathy or sociopathy behind the scenes or within the individuals that are elected. What do you do with people that have no conscience? I'll call them people for lack of a better term, but if you don't have a conscience, you're really not a person. You're something else. Not really sure what to call that something else, but nevertheless, this thing exists. These people exist, and they do not care who they have to hurt or kill. They don't care what nation they have to destroy to achieve whatever goal they have in mind. Like the New World Order. Like the Zionists. Now, I did a video a few days ago outlining the protocols for Zion. And in my opinion, those ideologies expressed in those protocols would definitely expose the author of these protocols or authors as being sociopathic or psychopathic. Again, you can't distinguish the two until you have enough data. We have enough data to understand that these individuals are void of conscience. And that is one of the things that the two, I want to call them sicknesses, but they're not, the two diagnoses have in common. If we continue to allow psychopaths into the President's office, the Senate, Supreme Court, police departments, city halls, judges, we continue to allow these kind of people to rule over us, our fate is, it's not good. And it's very intellectually lazy to not recognize what's going on. To not recognize that you are being manipulated by these socio/psychopaths. And they've infiltrated every government on the planet. They are embedded in the United Nations, and I mean, think about this for a moment. If a person goes out of their way to be around children, I mean really goes out of their way, you should probably suspect them of being a pedophile. A person that doesn't have children, that goes out of their way to be around children, is one of those symptoms of being a pedophile. And the same can be said for power, for control. Those who seek to control others, those who seek to inflict their will through power on others, are almost always psychopathic or sociopathic. And I strongly urge everyone to understand this, to gain an understanding that these people are in control. They seek out control. They seek to destroy, our constitutional rights, which we don't have any anymore. They have destroyed it. They destroy countries after country, bombing innocent people into oblivion, into the Stone Age. And people say with a straight face that these people are good leaders. Leadership under a sociopath or a psychopath is not a good thing. Now, you have to have a certain amount of darkness in you. If you don't, then you have no teeth. You have to be capable of causing harm. And I learned this the hard way. I had no self-respect back when I was pacifist, and no one else had any respect for me. And that's because I didn't have any teeth, that I was weak. And if you don't have any part of you that is dark, that is a monster, you're not a whole person. And you need that part of you. You need it. Now, I recently read an article on Zero Hedge about this very topic, about psychopathy and sociopaths in government. And what needs to be done regarding these people is, number one, they need to be marginalized, or maybe marginalized isn't the correct word. It needs to be constantly pointed out that they are what they are. They refer to it as otherizing in the article, like Hitler did during World War II concerning the undesirables like gypsies, faggots, Jews, and others. So they just don't understand. People just don't understand that these kind of people chase after power, and we need to otherize them, like Hitler did to the Jews and the gypsies. Otherwise, they're going to kill all of us. Well, 100 million of us would be alive here in the United States. Remember, people, Deagle.com is a CIA-connected, or really deep state-connected agency, a business, if you will. And they don't just make forecasts for nothing. They don't just put this out there for nothing. hardly anyone knows about that, except for the ruling class. So, why don't you see what I see? The reason is because your brain hemispheres are imbalanced. You either think too much with emotion or too much with logic. You have to have a good blend of these two things, of these two hemispheres, to have total understanding of what's going on around you. Now, some people, those without teeth, those without that dark side, that monster in them, they are afraid. They're afraid to face those monsters. They're afraid of what will happen to them. They're afraid to die. But I propose to you, death is a lot better than living on your knees in submission to fucking psycho and sociopaths. And if you don't think that they are, remember, a lot of these people are involved in things like, spirit cooking, bloodletting. You can't tell me with a straight face, George Bush, Barack Obama, numerous others, George Bush thought it was funny that they lied about the WMDs being in Iraq, and so many fucking people, innocent children, were slaughtered as a result. And, they think it's funny that they've been shooting depleted uranium rounds out there and causing massive amounts of birth defects. So massive, in fact, that the Iraqi health ministry, or whatever they call them fuckers over there, told the population it's probably best not to have children now. So that's a population that will never, as long as there's depleted uranium still there, they will never have a normal child again. Can you look me in the eye and tell me that's not either sociopathic or psychopathic? I bet you can't. See, I tell you to kill the state before the state kills you, because I understand that these people are socio or psychopath. And there's no fixing these people. There's no way to rehabilitate a person who has no soul, who doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong. And what is the soul? In my opinion, is the ability to automatically know what is evil and what is good. Clearly, molesting children, killing them, murdering women, throwing faggots off roofs. I know I'm using the derogatory name for them, but I'm not politically correct, and I'm not going to be. Okay? Look at Madeleine Albright. If you don't know who that is, it's a former Secretary of State, I believe. When she flat out admitted that she thought 500,000 Iraqi children being slaughtered was worth what they did to Iraq. You can't tell me Bill and Hillary Clinton, who has massive amounts of support from the public aren't psychopaths or sociopaths. Now, these people, they do work together to achieve common goals. And every large corporation like Monsanto, Syngenta, Bayer, Time Warner, and so on and so forth, they are filled with psychopaths too at the highest levels. Not everybody in government is a psychopath, okay? The clerk at the courthouse, they're probably not psychopathic. They probably just want to make a living, and let's face it, the state is one of the biggest employers out there, and easy to get employed with. Now, the reason I know a lot of this stuff is because of the material I read. I'm in a constant state of hyper-learning, and I'm getting better at absorbing it. A lot better, in fact. One of the things I study is crowd psychology, and so do the ruling class. That's why they have people divided into different groups. It's easier to control divided people than it is to control a united, strong people, which is why there's a constant campaign of division going on in this country. One of the books is The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind. This right here. This, I mean, I've read this book several times. Several times, and I learn something new every time I read it. I've also read this book a few times. The Psychology of Revolution. And this book I haven't read as many times, but I did read it after I learned how to absorb information a lot better. And this is The Psychology of Peoples. I also have Crystallizing Public Opinion by Edward Bernays. These three books are by Gustave Le Bon, the original social psychologist. He's the person who figured out the nuts and bolts of how contagion spreads. I recommend these books highly, and Crystallizing Public Opinion. I'm in a constant state of hyper-learning. I'm constantly learning. I do not shut down. When I try to go to sleep at night, I can't. I can't because my brain will not stop. And it's not negative stuff necessarily that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about everything and everyone. I'm thinking about you. The guy in Rampage, he says something in there that is very profound. I've decided to value your life over mine. And I have too. I do value your life over mine. I have ruined my life. Completely ruined it. Because I was a dumb little fucker back when I was young. I did very dumb things. And now, you know, many years later, I'm still paying for it. But I deserve it because of the things I've done. I'm not pity tripping here. I'm telling you the truth. That I've been a terrible, terrible person. And it wasn't until like close to my 30s that I began that change. The change to be decent and caring and and to do what's right, even at my own expense. That's why I make these videos. I'm trying to do what's right and even if it's at my own expense. I don't care about myself as much as I should. I am very, very self-destructive, and I always have been. But thanks to you, your comments, your kindness, I'm beginning to feel, not so terrible about who I am. I've really struggled with myself for a very long time, and I decided that my child's best interest, my wife's best interest, your best interest should come before mine. The things I say on these videos can get me arrested and locked away in a psychological institution or prison for a long time. You know they don't need court orders to lock you away anymore. It can just be done. So, this video has gone on for, what, 28 minutes so far? Is that correct? No, 20 minutes. I'm going to jump over to Zero Hedge and hit some of the key points in that article, and then we'll talk more about the psychopaths that roll over us. Okay, here we are at Zero Hedge. Brandon Smith wrote this. Global elitists are not human. Brandon is an author over at altmarket.com. He says that it is often said that otherizing people overall can be dangerous, and otherizing your enemies specifically can be tactically detrimental. It can lead to a false sense of superiority over people as you assert some kind of imagined genetic advantage. It can also lead to dangerous generalizations of vast groups as you categorize and pigeonhole millions as being exactly the same when this is rationally impossible. Like, looking at black people as a whole and then trying to assign them all some kind of characteristics. There are characteristics, but these things can be changed through education, through a lot of ways. And if one race behaves a certain way, you shouldn't demonize them. You should separate yourself from them or try to help in any way you can. And I think the United States, the people here, have tried to help, and it's not being seen that way. But you really shouldn't generalize or categorize millions of people as being exactly the same, because, one man in the black race may be completely evil, but another man may be a saint. And so you really have to judge at the individual level, right? Now, that's not to say I like a lot of the things that black people say about white people or do to white people, and I think white people should defend themselves, but on the other hand, we shouldn't just generalize. Otherizing is perhaps the only option when faced with a very particular type of person embracing a very particular brand of ideology. Otherizing can become a matter of survival. And this is what I'm talking about, people. I'm trying to expose these people for what they are, and it is literally a matter of survival. And we are, of course, talking about the globalists, the ruling class, whatever you want to call these people, the Illuminati. If you want to call them that, fine. Whatever you want to call them. Okay, so we're not talking about the low-level cronies and useful idiots within the globalist push or movement, because many of them simply represent an underlying gullibility or stupidity among people attracted to the inbred world of academia. Instead, I am talking about the people behind the curtain, self-proclaimed globalists or internationalists that have positioned themselves into strategic power centers. And that's what psychopaths and sociopaths do. That's why you see some police officers completely fucking lose it and just beat someone and beat them and keep beating them. And of course, if there's other police officers around, that psychopathy acts as a contagion and they join in. We're talking about people that influence or outright control government policy as they stand over the shoulders of supposedly freely elected officials. I'm talking about the people that influence economic security or insecurity through unaccountable central banking conglomerates. I'm talking about the men and women that desire to dictate the fates of millions or billions of people. These people are not easily identified by anything other than their rhetoric and actions. They are made up of multiple ethnic groups. They herald from all corners of the planet. They do not subscribe to any one spiritual doctrine, but they do devote themselves to many different religions as a means to fit in with the common citizen. Globalism is their religion, and their God is themselves. After studying the behavior of globalists and their organizations for quite some time, and myself included in that, I have noticed that their psychological patterns tend to match with a narrow band of people that can be best described as criminally insane, or more accurately, globalists behave like high-functioning, narcissistic, socio- and psychopaths. Everyone wants to be seen as important or unique, but narcissists, psycho, or sociopaths believe themselves to be entitled to special treatment and see themselves as above the laws and niceties of normal society. They sometimes seek to prop up this attitude through accomplishment, scratching for positions of power and influence in order to reinforce the notion that they are special compared to others. Of course, power is usually an artificial construct, because the only power we have over others is the power they give us, knowingly or unknowingly. Power does not make one special. The narcissist, psycho, or sociopath does not make such distinctions. He or she only distinguishes between the people who strive for dominance and everybody else. In their minds, the people that covet power are a superior subspecies, while people who do not are considered useless eaters, bugs, shit on the bottom of their shoe. These people, sociopaths, psychopaths, they are stricken with visions of assumed greatness. They do not view the content of their accomplishments as necessarily important, meaning they think they were born great, and therefore it is not for them to accomplish anything that serves to help others or advance the knowledge of humanity. And they don't give a shit about proving their greatness through legitimate achievement. A narcissistic sociopath usually prefers to get what they want easily. They expect people to hand them admiration and control automatically, but if they don't get what they want as a matter of course, they will use any means at their disposal, including, killing billions of people. These means at their disposal, they usually include the threat of force or the use of force, the use of torture, the use of a elaborate lie or lies, and schemes to push their target into a corner to make them behave in a specific manner. They use the use of psychological conditioning, molding behavior usually through fear responses, and also the use of gaslighting, accusing the target of being crazy if they do not subscribe to the narcissist's twisted view of the world. Can any of you out there argue with me that Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, hell, even Donald Trump aren't that way? Not all narcissists are sociopaths, but most sociopaths are narcissists. It's important to remember that there are varying degrees of this psychological cancer. When I mention globalists in particular as being narcissistic, I'm referring to their propensity to be high-functioning narcissists with sociopathic tendencies. They are narcissists that only have an inflated sense of self-worth, and they are almost always devoid of empathy and conscience. And of course there is the matter of the distinction between sociopaths and psychopaths, and it's hard to describe, but he put it the same way I put it. Matter of fact, that's where I got it from. I would put it this way: while sociopaths chase a goal and are willing to step on people to get it, not just step on, but harm, psychopaths step on people even when they don't have a goal in mind. The psychopath enjoys the act of destruction. All they want is to inflict pain on most other people. So I'll leave a link in the description box, but listen, I tried explaining to you why some people see things the way we see them. I really urge you to reconsider your position on the state, the necessity. encourage you to see things for what they are. I encourage you to understand that you are captured and you are a slave. I hope you all have a good day. Kill the state before the state kills you.